Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
God-given rights and their constitutional right.
When we summon the entire nation to a common purpose, a higher purpose.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Hello, my name is Lloyd Kwan.
And my name is Eduardo Beltran.
And today, on Rewind USA, we will be taking a step back in time to look over and analyze one of the most monumental Supreme Court cases of the early 21st century, Hamdi versus Rumsfeld.
Yasir Hamdi, a then American citizen born in Louisiana but raised in Saudi Arabia, was detained by U.S. forces in Afghanistan in 2001 for allegedly fighting with the Taliban against U.S. military forces as an enemy combatant. Upon capture, Hamdi was held in Guantanamo Bay and later was transferred to a military prison in Virginia when his citizenship was confirmed. During this time, Hamdi was denied access to a lawyer, held indefinitely, and not given a trial with impartial decision-makers due to his enemy combatant status. Issam Fouad Hamdi, his father, claimed that his son was doing relief work in Afghanistan and attempted to persuade the courts to declare his son's detention and treatment as unconstitutional through a petition for a writ of habeas corpus. He held that his son's Fifth Amendment right of due process was violated as he was prevented from having access to a lawyer and was held indefinitely. Despite this, the government still held that the executive branch had the right to detain Hamdi and restrict his rights and privileges due to his enemy combatant status during wartime. Moreover, when made into an appellate case, the government held that no judicial entity should have control over the decisions in this situation and/or the case, as the principle of separation of powers defers this to be a matter of the executive branch and the president and his broad powers during wartime. This then brought to light the question of whether or not being an enemy combatant justified the government's decision to strip Hamdi of his right to due process.
In a plurality decision issued by then Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that despite Congress giving the military the ability to detain enemy combatants post 9/11, Hamdi was still entitled to his rights of having counsel and an impartial trial. Furthermore, the court decided that the separation of power principle wasn't applicable in this situation. Though these were the decisions made by the United States Supreme Court, some justices who pushed said decisions believed that Congress, in fact, did not authorize Hamdi's detention. At the end of this ordeal, the U.S. government gave the option for Hamdi to renounce his citizenship, be deported to Saudi Arabia, and having strict travel restrictions placed upon him in return for his freedom. Hamdi agreed and was free from all charges and was deported.
Now throwing it over to artistic directors Hannah Wong and Denise True to visually explain the ramifications and possible side effects of an opposite ruling.
As a whole, Hamdi versus Rumsfeld and the decisions made by the justices of the U.S. Supreme Court have progressive effects in regard to future legal matters that deal with the similar judicial and constitutional principles. The case not only strengthened the effect of separation of powers, but also clarified the way it is to be applied and used in legal matters. Moreover, the case followed for discourse about human rights to take place and brought forth the notion to gather all information before taking action, leading it to become one of the greatest civil rights breakthroughs of the 21st century. The Supreme Court ruling did moderate some of the Bush administration's executive war powers following the 9/11 attacks. However, the U.S. Supreme Court should have cracked down on the executive branch even more in order to reinforce the rights of citizens. All in all, Hamdi v. Rumsfeld sparked the conversation pertaining to how the U.S. government is supposed to go about treating citizens, regardless of their actions and/or their affiliations.
If the court had ruled unjustly, affirming that the United States government was justified in detaining Hamdi, the controversy surrounding the Supreme Court's decision would have been even more intense. This would have sparked greater debate and conversation over the power that the government holds over its citizens. With Hamdi's Fifth Amendment rights violated and the U.S. government's lack of review and material, the opposite ruling could have instigated a forceful movement and possibly even protests and riots. This This ruling would have wrongfully expanded the executive branch's wartime abilities and in turn retroactively take away power from the judicial branch, as war criminals would no longer be under the court's jurisdiction. Moreover, Hamdi, along with others categorized as enemy combatants, whether rightfully or not, could have been subject to having more of their rights stripped from them. Subsequently, the court's decision could cause more social injustices and chaos as societal fear pertaining to the issues of terrorism and war may increase. As so, the government could be pressured to spend even more on the military as means to mitigate public outcry.
And now back to Lloyd Kwan and Eduardo Beltran in the studio.
My name is Eduardo Beltran.
And my name is Lloyd Kwan.
Thank you so much for tuning into the special edition of Rewind USA. Have a great evening.